All right. I'm still here. That's right. Still here, my man. So, yeah, that was just me pretty much recording a video for later, right? That's me literally recording a video for later, just so you know, right? I'm literally recording a video for later to respond for the Kamaru Usman Buckley fight and also for the BMF card with Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier. But for now, we are going to do the post show for UFC Kansas City. Here we go. All right. UFC post show for UFC Kansas City. So yeah, here we go, man. We're at the post show right now. We're gonna stick around for the whole entire post show, and then we're going to call it a day from here. So what was everybody's favorite fight of the night right there? I would say Anthony Smith's fight was my favorite. Now, all about this, they got Anthony Smith up right now in the booth while he was the one that lost. But again, it's his retirement, so why not? Now, let me answer Toxic Gameplay's question earlier, just right before I recorded that video for the Buckley Usman fight and the BMF card. So UFC card versus boxing card. How do you feel about the fight game as a whole at this moment? Well, I got to tell you, man, you look at the boxing card earlier, Toxic Gameplays, doesn't it give you UFC vibes? You had Chris Billum-Smith against Glanton in the very beginning, and then after that you had Vidal Riley, and then after that you had a rematch between Arthur and Anthony Yard. That was a UFC quality card, and I think the influence of Turkey El-Sheikh being in the game has a lot to do with that. And I think UFC and boxing cards are looking very similar in the qualities that they have. Now, if you look at the boxing cards back in the days, there wasn't a high quality of content that you see now when it came to the undercards. In fact, it was a very top-heavy card when it came to big names, right? If you had a Floyd Mayweather card, a Manny Pacquiao card, or a Bernard Hopkins card, or a Joe Calzaghe card, most of those undercards you never really remembered. Well, now it's a little bit of the opposite. You are starting to remember all the top fights because all the top fights are no longer just top heavy in boxing. They are UFC quality, which is what UFC constantly delivers every time. And Toxic Gameplay says, I agree. Top heavy is a great way to put it. Yeah, sometimes they do it. You look at some of the Conor McGregor cards that they've had before. They made it very top heavy to where you didn't really know anybody who was in a co-main event. But, of course, you were here for the main event, and that's just the way that they did it. But now they're putting a lot of people in really interesting cards. There was one time where there was a conspiracy theory. I forgot which card it was, but it was a Sean O'Malley card where they said that they had this conspiracy theory that they were going to put him in a very horrible card just so he doesn't sell. I think it was either him or I think it was Francis Ngannou. But, yeah, they made it top heavy for that reason alone. So here's Anthony Smith. Let's hear what he has to say right now. Did Chris Eubank have anything to say earlier on the matter at hand with did he have anything to say earlier, Chris Eubank, in the post-press fight conference? Let's see if he said anything here. Oh, okay, so his friend was flipping him off. That's why Anthony Smith was getting mad earlier. A buddy of his was yeah, so it was the buddy. Eubank is in the hospital. Oh, okay, that's why he didn't do a post-fight. Got it. That's why. So it was only Conor Benn that was up there. So, man, that shows you that Conor Benn will put you in a very tough fight. Look who was the one that went to the hospital, right? That fight could have gone either way. Let's hear what Eubank had to say here. Eubank's face looks like a sweet potato right now. Yeah, for real.
He's an extraordinary fighter, but the promoters are bringing him up, which is spoiling his weight at 147. What did I say? I've been saying it for 2 years. That man can go across to the United States and actually tear it up.
Especially since Eubank is 36 and Benn is 28. Yeah, I think that is the factor right there, right? You know, the age of Benn, I think, really played a factor in to that one, right? See, the way that people sort of hype this fight up, it is as if they're like the same age or something like that, and that couldn't be further from the truth. And the numbers don't lie right there with the statistics that you put up. Eubank is 36 and Benn is 28. Also, Eubank came zero point 0.5 over, right? And Eddie Hearn did mention that. He said that he wasn't even within the championship weights for him. So, man, shout out to Toxic Gameplays, because even though this is a post UFC fight show, we're also covering the boxing cards as well. And also, if you want to check out the KSW main event full fight card, check out the Chris Eubank and Benn live stream that I did previously, because I have the Pujanowski and the Eddie Hall fight on that one, because we stayed busy today in April 26th, 2025, covering all the fights. I think they had a BKFC fight too, but obviously I can't cover that. You can't cover them all, but yeah, that's what it is. And he didn't make weight. Toxic Gameplay says. Toxic Gameplay also says, I think he fought drained, which is terrible, because if you are weight drained, you can't rehydrate properly. Correct. And I think that also sort of affected his performance just a little bit, right? I think it's fair to say it did affect his performance a little bit. So, yeah. Let's see. What else here? What else? Okay, let's hear Chris Eubank right here.
And you saw that. You saw that. Junior is.
He says also Toxic Gameplays. Also, the fluid around your brain is drained too, which makes it easier to get concussions. Yeah, that's probably the factor of why he's in the hospital right now. Wouldn't you agree?
Too big a man. These weights that they are flouting is just, they're destroying the places. Connor put on a performance which is keep on walking, keep on walking.
Are you going to be against the rematch? There is a rematch clause. Are you having to see again? Senior, are you happy to see a rematch? There is a.
That's how Paul Pamba died last December. Okay, yeah, 14 times with a pre-existing brain injury. Damn, man. Yo, that's crazy.
Rematch clause. How do you feel about that?
Okay. So you see the difference in size, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Why we've got to stop destroying these fighters who are lighter weight. Junior's coming down, is burning him out.
Chris Eubank is saying that you're destroying these fighters at a lighter weight.
And he's going up, which is just they're destroying his career. Weights have to stay in the same weights. And if that's not done, then boxing is going to become like WWE. And
yeah, he said that if you don't care about the weights in boxing, boxing will just become like WWE. One hit, Toxic Gameplay says, won his fight, did the post-fight interview, laughed, took pictures with the fans, went back to the dressing room, and just died. Damn, bro. You're talking about Paul Pamba right there. Yeah. That was literally out of nowhere, right? And that's what's crazy about it, man. He just died right there after doing all of that. Right, so here's Ian Garry. Hold on, we'll go back to Eubank Sr. right there. There's Ian Garry in the 4th round right here. In the 5th round, he got rocked right here. He was really about to go out, and he just decided, hey, you know what? I'm going to keep on fighting. I'm going to try to shoot in for a takedown. And, yeah, that was that. Eubank Sr. outfit, this Easy has been crazy. This dude has been crazy. He said it's a bear skin. That's crazy that he said that it's bear skin. Toxic Gameplays.
Showing grit. That's showing perseverance.
Yeah, speaking of showing grit and perseverance, yeah, Ian Garry showed perseverance in that last round right there where he really had to survive.
Um,
Now, all right, wait, real quick. Significant strikes for Ian Garry, 112.55 for Carlos Prates. Distance attempts per minute, 12.4. 4 out of 19 takedowns, 0 attempts for Carlos Prates right there. Them boys fought like the loser would get killed. Yeah, man, both Ian Garry and Carlos Prates. What did I tell you before the fight, right? These are two guys that are both highly skilled and both highly favorable over the other, but the other guy was going to give them a fight. And that is what we got out of Ian Machado Garry and Carlos Prates tonight. We got a very similar outlook between them because what you got was a guy that was overly confident, overly highly skilled more than the other, but the underdog came in here and gave the other guy a real hard fight. And that was the story between Ian Garry, Carlos Prates, and Eubank and Benn, all for April 26, 2025's fight day. They put it all on the line, and just like Toxic Gameplay said on the comment section below, them boys fought like the loser would be killed, or on the line. Sorry, I don't. But yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy, but it's true, and that's what we got out of this, and it was a great night of fights nonetheless. So let's continue on from here. Let's continue on with more fights like this, more exciting fights that we didn't think would happen, because remember, Ian Garry didn't have to take this fight, and as a result, we got an interesting fight out of it. Benn nor Eubank had to take this fight, but they did, and as a result, we got a very interesting fight out of it. Today, the tatted up guy got their asses beat, according to Toxic Gameplays said on the comment section. Well said on that. That's exactly what happened. The tatted guys got their butts whooped, and that's what it is. But the highly inexperienced guys and highly experienced guys and the guys that were favorable to win got the fight of their lives, and that is the story for April 26, 2025's fight day. Yeah, learning experience for him. He says, yeah, it's a great day for fights.
showing love is the heart. You know, he's in for a penny, he's in for a pound. Gentlemen, I have to go in and see my son.
Congratulations, Senior.
Okay, they're asking if they would like to see the rematch or that is it. You know, but yeah, Chris Eubanks said that he's going to see his son. Okay, so now let us take a look at the co-main event of the evening. Obviously, the retirement fight of Anthony Smith. Zhang Ming Yang put him out in the first round right there. And then obviously afterwards, Anthony Smith told us that the corner of Zhang was taunting him, and so he decided to go after him after the fact, and that's what it was. Toxic Gameplay says, looking like boxing and UFC in 2009 vibes. Let me know what you mean by that, 2009 vibes. That's interesting that you said that. What happened in 2009 that sort of gave those vibes? I know that Eddie Hearn went to UFC 100. No, it wasn't UFC 100. It was the fight with Shane Carwin and Brock Lesnar. It was the same week and the same weekend where Amir Khan, I think, fought in Vegas that weekend also. So at least that's what I remember with UFC and boxing vibes in 2009. And obviously Manny Pacquiao was at his prime at that time. And yeah, UFC was way more fun to watch in 2009. For sure, I could absolutely see that. Well, all right. So before I get up out of here, let's run down the entire card for UFC Kansas City tonight, and then also run down the entire card for Benn and Eubank. So in the beginning of the night, what did we have here? We had in the beginning of the night, we had Jocelyn Edwards get a first round knockout against Chelsea Chandler. Okay, that was the first fight of the night, set the tone really well. And then another finish Timothy Kawamba gets a flying knee finish over Roberto Romero. Out of nowhere, he gets that flying knee, and then here's a submission win by Jacqueline Amorion. Finishes Paulie Viana in the second round, and then Malcolm Wellmaker knocks out Cameron Simon. A lot of knockouts that have been happening here, and also watching the Randy Brown knockout highlight right here as well. We're going to get to that in a second. Damon Blackshear gets a decision win over Alatang. Decision win. No takedowns attempts in this fight, but the percentage strikes was on Damon Blackshear's side, and therefore that is the reason why he got the victory. Chris Gutierrez taking on John Castaneda. Chris Gutierrez gets the decision in this one, even though John Castaneda had a good amount of ground control time in this. He did get a takedown, 1 out of 1 takedowns he did get. 2 of the takedown attempts Chris shot in did not get, and that was that. Did you ever have a hood accent, bro? I did it. I mean, I think my, you know what? I've always sounded the same. So I don't know if I've always had a hood accent. I've always been around hood people, but I don't know if I've always had a hood accent. But okay, let's see here. Evan Elder taking on Gage Young. Now, here's what's crazy about Evan Elder versus Gage Young, right? The irony of this whole thing. Evan Elder was supposed to fight the suspected child molester in Ahmad Hassanzada. So what happens? Gage Young comes in as a replacement. So it is Elder versus Young because the guy who was supposed to fight in this card was convicted of being a child pedo. Put that in perspective. And now we got Elder versus Young, and this time it was Young that came out as the victor. The striking percentage was on his side. He won that fight as a result of that. And moving on, we have Matt Schmel taking on Jimmy Flick. Even though Jimmy Flick had great takedowns, 5 out of 7 takedowns in this fight, great ground control, it was Matt Schmel that won, maybe because of the scrambling exchanges that he had won over Jimmy Flick that allowed him to win this fight. But I thought Jimmy Flick won this fight. But either way, great win for Matt Schmel. On to the main card. And what we got with the main card, what did we have? In the beginning of the main card, Ikram Ali Askarov gets a win over Andre Muniz, and as a result, gets a first-round knockout and a TKO finish just right in the first fight of the main card. Randy Brown gets a knockout from Nicholas Dalby. He just looked like the faster fighter out of the two. He steps back, knocks him out, and Nicholas Dalby falls in the same direction that Justin Gaethje fell during the Max Holloway fight. By the way, check out my video reacting to Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier finally fighting each other again for the 3rd time, and for a retirement fight for Dustin Poirier. Michel Pereira loses to Abus Magomedov in a decision, and Abus Magomedov was doing a very good job of being able to prevent Michel Pereira from having this acrobatic, rangy type of fight, and as a result, he got the win, pressuring him all throughout this fight, not allowing him to have any room. Congrats on Abus Magomed for his decision win on that one. Giga versus David Onama. David Onama gets to win. I think the wrestling is what won this fight. 3 out of 3 takedowns. Obviously, the striking wasn't too far off in between him and David Onama, and he gets to win over Giga on that one. Giga did a very good job really throwing his strikes here, right? But by the end of it all, it was the ground control, it was the takedowns, and it was the aggression of David Onama that won the fight. And then Anthony Smith, we talked about with Zhang, another first-round knockout. Anthony Smith, this is a very sad situation for most fighters. This is what happens. Obviously, Robbie Lawler was able to come out and win his final fight, right? Floyd Mayweather came out and won his final fight, left and ran off into the sunset. Same thing with Joe Calzaghe. Same thing with Khabib. But tonight, Anthony Smith, he fell into what most people fell into at the end of their career, which is a loss and a devastating loss. But shout out to Zhang for getting the win. Now, Ian Machado Garry, once again, like I said, he didn't have to take this fight, but he did. And because he took this fight, hey, guess what? He got himself a very tough fight against an underdog, just like what I had mentioned with Eubank versus Connor Benn. That's exactly what happened there. It was a situation where the favorite underestimated the underdog, and as a result, we got ourselves a good fight. Towards the end of the fifth round, it was a little too late. Carlos Prates was doing good, but the whole entire fight, 4 out of 19 attempts that Ian Garry took, and 4 he got out of the 19. And I mean, it was an aggressive effort, but nonetheless, the ground game of Ian Garry is what won him this fight. But he nearly did get knocked out at the end. And if this was Nate Diaz, everybody out there would be saying, oh, you know, he hurt you or this and that. You know what I'm talking about. Nate Diaz only needs to hurt the guy one time in order for people to praise him. And that's what Carlos Prates probably got out of the Fight Nerd fans tonight. But nonetheless, Ian Machado Garry showed that he was the most skilled guy out of the two. And that is what we have for UFC Fight Night. Machado Garry versus Prates, UFC Kansas City. All right.